What is up, fellas? I am back. Apologies for the last week or so. It has been hectic for me. I was sick and had a bunch of other stuff going on, but I am back. But we got huge news this morning about Hawaii, and I got more content steamrolling your way this coming week. We are back on a real schedule, and I got stuff coming your way. But let's go ahead and get into the news because that's why you're here. I don't want to waste your time. Hawaii will join the Mountain West Conference as a full member in 2026. And on top of that, most of Hawaii's non-football sports will also be joining the Mountain West Conference, as the AD confirmed on Monday night for Hawaii. Angelos, the AD, said the Mountain West will pay the Big West's exit fee of $750,000. He also said that the distribution will remain the same, with Hawaii becoming a full-time member, but the rest of the conference revenue will be shared equally. So that's nice. But the biggest part for Hawaii in all of this, obviously outside of becoming a full member, because that is huge for them, they will no longer have to pay travel subsidies to visiting teams, which the subsidies were travel cost sharing basically when they first joined the Mountain West Conference. But the amount to equivalent of covering charter flights for visiting football teams coming in range from $150,000 to schools in the Pacific time zone to $175,000 for teams on Mountain time, which is crazy. That is a huge win for them. And even Angelo said that's a big win for us, in quote, that's a big win for us to finally get out from underneath paying travel subsidies for our conference competition to come out to play us, end quote. But that really helps them, especially financially within their department. That is huge, eliminating those, because if you go back and look within their athletic department in 2018, this was the really only area I could find it. They listed $1.8 million in total travel subsidies and guarantees, and in the same period, their own travel costs were $1.5 million, and that was in 2018, so I couldn't even imagine now. That is a massive burden to get off your chest. And joining as a full member, congratulations to Hawaii. It is a school that I will always root for, and just happy to see things happen for them. They give us so much happiness with late night football. It's late night for us, not in terms of, I'm not someone who has things on the game for them. I watch purely out of enjoyment, and also the uniforms are incredible, the culture. Love Hawaii. Huge for them for getting into the Mountain West, and that gives the Mountain West full-time member right there. But real quick, before we dive into more about the Mountain West and possible future additions, or what's really kind of circling right now with the Mountain West tornado, the Pac-12 has basically put its expansion plans on pause, according to McMurphy from his sources, which we kind of already knew this. They needed the TV deal to figure it out, but he made sure and said the Pac-12 won't add any more schools until its media rights evaluation is completed. That process could take up to 3 months. So we knew they wanted to figure out the TV deal, but that kind of gives us a little timetable right there. Could take up to 3 months, which obviously, I mean, you never know with how these things work, but that at least gives us a number or an idea to look at the calendar. And before we go into anything further, I just want to say this. The Mountain West moved faster than the Pac-12, which a lot of people have started to think of, Pac-12's getting behind. But I even stated that the Pac-12 or the Mountain West was going to move faster just because they needed to get ahead of anything. They needed to solidify pretty much to put themselves in a better spot. But there's a lot of people who have taken this as, Pac-12, you're in trouble, which doesn't really make sense at all, because we kind of just got the idea that it's on pause right now. We know it's on pause. It's not like they're out here scrapping, fighting the Mountain West for Hawaii or anything like that. But they did have discussions, but there was never a true offer. But before we get into this, I want to say, no hate to either conference, because I've seen kind of people who are fans of the conferences battling at each other. But the Pac-12 is going to be fine. For the people who think it's all going to melt down, it's not. It's not a popsicle in your back pocket on a summer day. They are fine. They're doing what needs to be done, and they're doing their due diligence. They need to take time to get the exact thing they want to go after the schools they want. So it's not that they're just wasting time. It is a short deadline that they need to get this done, but they have to do this the right way. So it will take time. And also, oh my goodness, this is what gets me. For the people who keep saying they should have just merged in talks of the Pac-12 and the Mountain West Conference, just shut up, please. I am so tired of seeing that. The schools in the Pac-12 are going to be getting more money. They are going to be increasing their bottom dollar. They will get a better TV distribution revenue, all of that. That's just how it is. It has a bigger brand name. The Pac-12 has better connections. Those schools going up were some of the better schools. That's just how it is. I think that's some people who are Mountain West fans that are bitter about that, and then Pac fans who are getting mad back at them. I've just seen a lot of interaction, but they're taking their time. Like I've said, they want to get the best possible outcome for the Pac-12 for their deal. And it's not that hard to comprehend this situation if you actually pay attention to what's going on rather than just trying to create discourse for the sake of creating discourse. But I mean, that's 90% of the internet nowadays. Not me and not you. Hopefully you are a rational fan just like I am and just enjoy the sport because you love it and not because there always has to be some massive storyline or some narrative behind something, but you just want to talk about it because you love college football. But obviously merging would have been nice in the traditional sense of college football, but as we know, money does not have emotions. The college football we knew is not necessarily around here anymore. And also the people who keep saying they're not going to compete with the Big 12. They're not going to compete with the ACC. Why is the Pac-12 doing this? Why is the Pac-12 doing that? No one has ever said they are going to be on par with the Big 12 or the ACC. That has just been stuff that has been spit out online, and people decide to run with it and think this is some idea that this is happening. They are fighting to put themselves in the best position possible. It's not hard to understand. This matters to these fans and brands. It's not like we're just sitting here saying, oh, they're looking for a TV deal. They're waiting it out to try to match and get into that Power 4 for the playoff to get an automatic bid. No, these schools and that brand is trying its best to survive and position itself in a world that we have no idea where things are going in college football right now. Not me, not you, not even the people who are deep in the walls writing about this shit, not even the people who really control it even know what's going on, unless I guess you're Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti in the Big Ten when they have their little tea parties and talk about how are we going to exclude the rest of the world for domination. That's really the only places we probably know what's going on is if you are those two guys. But then you have people from the outside. Just because your annual 5-7 team in a power conference isn't a power conference doesn't mean you're just going to shit on these smaller schools. And some of them aren't necessarily smaller schools, just brands, I guess, in terms of football. But they're fighting for survival. Why would you not want to increase your bottom dollar when you don't know how things are going to be? Okay, I mean, you can sit there comfortably, but if we reverse the roles, you'd be in the same situation, want to know everything about this. You would want to know, how are we going to increase this? I don't blame any of these schools for moving, and I get it sucks that regionality is dying, and I hated it. I hated when the playoff became a thing. All the new changes. I'm a traditionalist in the sense of the word, in the terms of college football, but these people are fighting for their lives. These brands are fighting for their lives. They need the money, even if it's just a little bit more, because that's how you survive. And I want to see a lot of these programs healthy and thriving. So if you want to hate on it, that was a rant. I'm so sorry. But let's go ahead and just get into the Mountain West expansion. I'll cut that off right there. But now there's 8 full members required to be the FBS League. The Mountain West, as we know, we're circling back to NIU and Toledo as football-only members. Sources have said they're going back after them, and they want at least one more football member. So NIU and Toledo are back on the table. And remember, last month, the Mountain West actually notified the MAC of its interest in NIU and of Toledo. That was just a notification of interest. I'll dive into that more in a second. But let's look. If the Mountain West adds NIU and Toledo, they would be the only conference with schools in 5 time zones. You have Hawaii and then the other 4 continental U.S. time zones, which could, in terms of what in quote from Brett McMurphy, sorry, I'm speaking too quickly, he said, this could potentially increase the value of the Mountain West future media rights. So I don't blame them. It seems like they're really wanting to go after that central time zone. They want to capture all of it. Because, I mean, you got to think that would be enticing to have each and every time zone. No matter if you want to make fun of it or anything, these conferences have to think of ways to increase any dollar they can. So I don't hate the idea of it, but I do hate the idea of breaking up the MAC. But it's, like I said, it's been said that they want to add at least 1 and probably 2, but in the central time zone. So that's important, which makes us think that they are really spearheading Toledo and NIU after, obviously, the Hawaii edition they just had. But they need at least 1 football-only member to get to 9 football teams, obviously, so the league can have 8 games. Because if you only have 7 games, you're either playing a smaller schedule or you're playing 2 teams twice to get to 8 games. It's not fun. It's not to do it. No one wants to play the same team twice in the regular season, especially when it's unbalanced. So they need at least 1 more football-only member, and that seems to be what they're going after. So before you say anything or say any other school, it has been said that the Mountain West is focusing on a football-only member. Look, they got the 8th full member. Right now, they just need that football-only member to hit that conference game mark. So the rebuild probably for the Mountain West is almost nearly complete. I don't think they plan on going full-on mega conference. They don't want to. Obviously, when you got a cake, you don't want to cut it up into as many pieces and share it all around. You know, they kind of want to have a little bit of bigger pieces for themselves, and they've added UTEP, as we know. But when we look at NIU and Toledo, which as we know are the informed targets for the Mountain West Conference, people have also talked about NDSU and SDSU, which I'll get into in a minute. But let's put the attention on NIU and Toledo. Obviously, people are like, okay, what does NIU and Toledo have interest? We haven't seen much from Toledo. We did get a statement last month when we first initially found out about this from NIU saying, in quote, "Conference realignment is a highly dynamic situation, and NIU appreciates the interest in our strong brand and proven commitment to the success of our student athletes. At this time, we have not received a formal offer to consider a change." They knew, like I said, the Mountain West informed the MAC. So in this situation, it seems like they were like, look, there's a possibility of this, that we are interested. But I don't think any offer was made. But it seems to me, and especially a lot of people that follow around the MAC, that it seems like NIU's kind of got one foot out the door, like, hey, is it coming? Are we going? What's it looking like? Because you got to remember, it's football only. So all the other sports and everything, you don't necessarily have to worry about bringing them over to the Mountain West and dealing with that whole fiasco, because obviously we know about travel is not easy because this is the Mountain West Conference. But McMurphy even said, priority is to further explore options for adding football-only members outside of the current footprint. If you want to talk about travel, like I emphasized, that central time zone. So on top of this, it really looks like NIU, I would think it's probably, if anything, it's going to be NIU. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying the most likely target and the one that I think would leave would be NIU. So when you look at the Mountain West Conference, I really don't think, when we're talking outside of the Mountain or the MAC schools, that they want to add New Mexico State, or even I don't think they want to dip down into the FCS. I think they really want to hit this on the head, football only, and get one of those two MAC schools and cut it there and be fine. So the revenue with the MAC obviously is not as great. It would be higher joining as a football only member in the Mountain West Conference. Now we can talk about travel costs and all that, but I can't decipher all that. That is by no means my area of expertise, or want to even begin to calculate that going forward. But anyone saying they should just join or should not join, keep it easy. Remember, regionality, like I've said, it's just not there, even if it makes sense. Same for New Mexico State, with all the people saying them. But if you look at the MAC, they have low TV payouts. The attendance is trash, mainly because, obviously, for something we all love, they do get good views with it. Midweek Maction, I love it to death. I've loved it since I was a kid. I'll sit there and watch a 6-4 versus 5-7 team all night long, not putting anything on the game, just loving it for the pure enjoyment of football. But that only goes so far because they can't fill out the stadiums, man. And then you got to think, how are you going to get alumni or people to come to the school on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock in the middle of November when it's cold as hell? I mean, it's just doesn't work like that. And then obviously, going forward, if you look to be NIU or Toledo, what would be enticing is getting away from that. You'd have a true football calendar of Saturdays. And you would be able to have a better, I guess, department revenue, better attendance, and just all around, not necessarily vibes don't do anything to bring money, but the future numbers do look good for the MAC, but it will be better to join the Mountain West. That's just simply how it is, even putting apart the travel stuff. So I'm really looking at NIU in this situation. That's really about it. But if we want to go further, I know everyone's clamoring about New Mexico State. Like I've said, regionality is not the focus. The central time zone has obviously been said to be prioritized for the Mountain West Conference. The key is they want to spread out the media rights, or spread it out to be enticing to the media rights for the TV networks. I think it's going to be NIU, but I mean, money's the name of the game. In all seriousness, if what I believe to be true and what I think is probably going to be true, not saying they're going to leave, but it seems like the money is going to be better. The future will be better, especially with the media deal. I believe it would be best for NIU. Like we said, money talks. Money is the name of the game. So if we're going to talk about, let's say they whiff. No NIU, no Toledo. Now, where does our attention shift to? New Mexico State? I don't think so. I really just don't think they're interested. Even people like who I've talked to that are Mountain West Conference fans or even PAC fans, no one seems to really be interested in New Mexico State. And even if it makes sense regionally, which we all look at it from an outside perspective at first, we're like I said, regionality said, but like New Mexico State, they're right there. But it really doesn't seem like a real thing. I think they would probably dip their toes in the FCS before they would even go after New Mexico State. So if we're looking at those FCS schools, it seems that that would be the last case, like plan C is FCS schools. But if we're not looking at New Mexico State, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Sacramento State, and Tarleton State, who I've talked about plenty, but it seems like the Montana schools, for people who bringing them up, have basically shown no interest. I don't blame them. You have national prominence at your level. You compete very well. There's really no reason to jump up. Like, if anything, it just hurts you. And I would kind of say the same for the Dakota schools. I get the money, but there's a lot of other stuff that's going to go behind it. You have to meet certain criteria on your stadiums, all this other things that you couldn't even dream about being an issue. So I kind of want to put the Dakota schools to the side as well. Even though I know their names are getting thrown around a lot, I just don't really believe that they should. I don't think they should. Like the Montana schools, I said, not really showing any interest. Same for the Dakota schools. Just don't even really think about it. So that just leaves us with Sacramento State and Tarleton State. And for Sac State, we're looking at a school that does regionally make sense, though, if we're looking at this. They have a great initiative to increase their athletics. As we know, they've raised tens of millions of dollars very recently just to try to move up. And on top of that, a new stadium, the deal with, I believe, the Kings for basketball, just insane. And on top of that, which is pretty good, I Googled it, you're sitting there, and if you want to keep it within conference, San Jose State and Nevada are about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hour drive trips for fans and travel between schools. Now we're talking regionally, but I mean, like, this is like plan C if we get down to it. But I think that would make sense. I really do. I would love to see Sacramento State just because of how hard they've tried get up. And then obviously we have Tarleton State, who I believe is a steal, and it's a long-term win. I think Tarleton over time, like I've talked about in my last video, if you want to go back and watch it later in the video, I talk about Tarleton and how they've made a jump from D2 to FCS and how their fans just keep growing. They have more fans than some other FBS schools in Texas for attendance. Their athletic department, they're connected to Texas A&M. They got money. They can roll around in it. They keep increasing all their athletics. They are building new stuff all around campus. That's a school that's ready to bloom, like I said. But if realistically, I would see Tarleton in this situation probably end up in the CUSA. Not saying they will, but if stuff starts to move around more, that's where we could see him. But I would love for someone to give him a chance, because I think that's a school in the future that's going to blossom and would be a steal for any G5 conference. But that's kind of where we're at. I was kind of all over the place today. First video back, getting used to it. A lot of stuff going around recently, but I'm back. I got plenty more content planned for you guys. Let me know what y'all think about this situation. I know it's kind of quiet with the Pac-12. Like we said, they're trying to hammer down that media rights situation to go after those AAC schools. But what do we see for the Mountain West Conference? Do you think what I said makes no sense? Like, is there someone you think that I haven't even brought up that could actually make sense? I know people have brought up, like, I believe it was UC Davis and some other non-football schools, which would make sense. Like, people say Grand Canyon for basketball only, which I think would be awesome, by the way. It would be great for the conference. But we got to remember, they said basically football only. However, I could have missed somebody. So let me know in the comments. Hope y'all have a great night or great rest of your day if you're watching in the morning. Have a good one, y'all.